Meeting is resumed and we're on 11.8, the annual report adoption, and Paul Davidson, Chief Financial Officer, is going to lead us off.
Yeah, just to present the final annual report for adoption. It's been to Strategy, Finance and Risk Committee in the past multiple times, so this is incorporating all the changes that have been reflected up until that point in time. In terms of the overall financial results, a surplus of 136 million of net debt, just over 700 million. The current documents that you have in front of you includes both Tauranga City and the group, so that's all of the CCOs as well as are consolidated into the report. I think that's the main highlights have been adopted through previous committee meetings, including the resolution to bring some of the small surplus that we had available into an interest rate reserve, which has been adopted in previous meetings. So very much consistent with the budget and in line with what have been previous reports. I think that's all I really wanted to highlight. Most has been said in the past, I think.
Questions for Paul? Yep, Bill.
Paul, this is in relation to paragraph 5, where it talks about the non-financial performance measures, 60% achieved, 30%, 37% not achieved, etc. Is there any benchmarking in terms of, other metro cities in terms of those non-financial performance measures? Because last time there were a number that weren't achieved either. So I'm just getting a feel for other councils in that space.
We would have to do some more digging. I think that the thing to reflect is that a number have been and continue to be impacted by COVID through some of those. So there's, I think there's around, I'm just going off memory, but something like 18% of the measures were actually impacted by COVID as well through that time, which has impacted. But we would have to do a little bit more work to go back through previous long-term plans and annual reports to actually see how the measurement.
Yeah, I'm really in terms of, say, for example, against Hamilton or just getting a bit of a feel for how well we are doing. I don't need it now, but it's just something to...
We could look to bring that back through Strategy, Finance and Risk in the new year.
Remy? Running up to the table.
As the person who would probably be charged with bringing it back in the new year, so a quick conversation there. Thank you. The problem with the aim is laudable, but we all set our own targets. So if Council A sets 100 measures like we've got and sets really low targets and reports 99% well done, and Council B sets challenging targets and reports 50, 60, 70%, have they done better or worse than the other one? It becomes a really difficult conversation. Even when the DIA set up their mandatory measures for the waters and transport, a lot of those mandatory measures, which we all thought, oh, here comes some real benchmarking, were along the lines of council will respond within its set target for water breaks. In other words, each council could set its own target. So council A could set 20 minutes and council B could set 24 hours, and the 24 hours becomes achievable and the 10 minutes doesn't. So we can bring some stuff back and explain how Hamilton and Palmerston North and Dunedin have gone against their measures, but unless we really tease out what their measures are in their circumstances, it's probably not going to be a lot of value to you.
Okay, I appreciate that, Chair, but it's just getting some understanding of actually how well as an organisation we do, and there might be something else to benchmark against, but I'd hate to see for next year for the annual report that we have a similar level of achievement or non-achievement.
get your point. And the other point that you've raised, I think, through SFR is that you wanted us to identify potentially like the top 25. So I think, as Jeremy said, we've got over 100. Perhaps find those that are more relevant, meaningful, and report on those, because I think if we did that, that might be the ones there that we need to set. Some of them are set at a national level, perhaps not, some of them are not particularly meaningful, and picking up on the previous points from Stephen, perhaps not key ones that you would think for our city. So we've taken that on board, and it's something we'll look to do, and perhaps for the next SFR in 2023, we can perhaps go through and say these are the ones that we think are the top 25, and then focus a bit more on those. So we have had that internal conversation post your feedback at the last meeting.
So to the next annual report, we'll still need to report against the LTP measures because that's the accountability cycle. But we're wrapping this now into the 2024 LTP, and there's a significant work stream around KPIs, performance measuring, outcome measuring for that process. It's loose at the moment, and we'll come back and seek some direction from yourselves.
Anything else? So what we need to do is receive this report, and then we've got Clarence and Anton here who'll come up and talk to their audited report, and then we'll do the rest. So Bill, you're moving, receiving, and Stephen seconding. Any further discussions? All those in favour say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. So welcome. We're delighted to see you because there was a chance that we weren't going to.
It's Merry Christmas.
Yes, it is Merry Christmas.
Good afternoon, and yes, we're also delighted to be here. As of earlier this morning, it was quite stressful to work to get here. So yes, but we're here. So thank you. So I will just highlight overall the audit process and talk to my audit opinion. So overall, it's an unqualified audit opinion, but there is an emphasis of matter included in the audit opinion, and that's just the referral to your disclosure around the impact of the three waters. Now, that paragraph may change if royal assent has been given to the new legislation, because it's supposed to be today. So I don't know if it's before or after royal assent, so that may change. Hopefully it won't. Well, it will change, but maybe my audit opinion don't have to change. But we'll work through that. So just on the financial results, Paul spoke about that. The big thing that we focused on in our audit plan was the revaluations. So in total, there was $851 movement in the revaluations, mostly in the roading. That was $451 movement. And in the other assets was 369 million movement. So that is quite significant. That's correct. Yeah, sorry, did I say dollar? Million. I've threw a few zeros away, sorry. Maybe I should go back to the numbers. So sorry about that. Yeah, $451 million. And that's why it was highlighted as a potential significant risk with the audit, because if you get that wrong, clearly your interpretation of the financials can change. And then also with the non-financial reporting, yes, COVID had an impact, and what Jeremy said is totally correct. You set your own targets. So the best thing is with the next LTP to look at the targets that you're setting and then have a meaningful maybe trend analysis to actually look at your own sort of achievements against your own targets, because then you know exactly where you're spending the money and where you want better outcomes. So I think that's definitely something to look at going forward. The other thing was management override. That's just the standard risk in all audits, and that's so we look at the control environment, making sure that everything is signed off with a one-up approval, that sort of thing. So there was nothing that we can report on that or have to report on that. So overall, I'll just Anton quickly talk about the audit process as such. But from my point, I just wanted to thank Paul, Catherine, Marin, and the whole finance team. It's a lot of pressure getting through this, and especially this late in the year. And I know it's they worked extremely hard. So thank you. I really want to appreciate that.
Just before Anton does, could I just recognise that it is actually Marin's 10th annual report, which to do one annual report is pretty impressive. So it's quite amazing to get to 10 and still be. You're still smiling? Yes.
Sitting at the table too, I was impressed.
Okay.
Anton.
Good afternoon. Yeah, the other thing that we also looked at was the fair value assessment of the 3 waters that council prepared. We actually thought council went through a good process working with the valuers to make sure they had good rates and that it was, in line with where the market was going, because we have seen some big market movements in the past sort of 12 months. Once we worked through that with the council staff, we agreed with the result that a fair value assessment was not required for this financial statements. In terms of the process, sorry, what I'll say is that, the finance staff are very responsive to any audit queries. The other side that a lot of times people forget is we look right across council. So we also look at the engineers and work with them, like the roading, the water, and also in the non-financial reporting, we have to work with quite a number of staff throughout the organisation. And, everybody was really positive and had that goal to get it done and not just, oh, well, that's the finance team's problem. So that was quite, made it quite good for us. So we appreciated that and helped us get all to this point today.
Thank you for that, Anton, and thank you for that acknowledgement. I think it's important that it isn't. It's a whole of organisation report, and it's good to hear that the organisation has taken that point of view. So, any questions while we've got Clarence and Anton here? Let's hope that the Governor General signs off the. That would be that would be another step in the quite difficult passage of this piece of legislation, wouldn't it? My knowledge of Governor Generals, they can ask some quite difficult questions. All right, so thank you very much, and we appreciate that this is a busy week or a busy time of year for you, and you've got it through in time for us to consider at this meeting. We really appreciate it. As usual, a good relationship between audit and our staff, and relationships take both sides working hard, and we do appreciate that. So I think we wish you both a restful and happy Christmas season. Thanks very much. So now we have to receive the Audit New Zealand report, adopt our annual report, because there's no changes required other than if the royal assent is given. Authorise the Chief Executive to make any necessary minor numerical drafting or presentation amendments, and note that the audited summary annual report will be published using summarised material from the approved annual report, because actually very few people, other than maybe John Robson, are going to go through all that. Someone prepared to move that. Stephen and Bill, thank you very much. Any further questions for the team? You mean Merrin sat at the table all this time? We haven't got a question for him. Means you must have done a great job. Wish you a restful and Merry Christmas too. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just like to thank Clarence for the 5 years that he's been our audit director. He's rotated off. He's taking 5 months leave. He's travelling around the countryside in his camper van. So we'd just like to thank Clarence for the 5 years he's spent with us as our audit director. So yeah, that sort of comes from us. So and hope he has a great holiday.
I'm sure he will. I'm sure he will. Okay. I'll put that. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Thanks very much. Right, so we need to go back into public excluded for the reason